there's no more like new prompts for this week's conversation, right?
I didn't see any.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. But I was kind of like trying to think of any ideas or any.
Yeah.
Basically, I have three ideas. Okay, so I listened to This American Life episode, and it was about, there was like a reporter who was like hanging out at this bodega and did like a whole reporting, kind of like what was going on, who was coming in, who was like, who were the people stopping there, like there were like cops, people from protests. And so she kind of interviewed them. So I was like, I had this one idea, like, oh, that's kind of cool if we like choose one location, go just like have like, instead of like casting a super wide net and trying to do like a survey, like, you know, what is every neighborhood, like what's the state of every neighborhood, or what's like I'd rather just like go super micro. Then my second idea, there's this British photographer, Paul Graham, who did this project or did this series called A Shimmer of Possibility that I really love. And can I screen share? Can I? Okay, Paul Graham. Here, I pulled this up. So, Shimmer of Possibility was this project. It was basically like a series of 12 books that he did. But his idea was that, oh, I don't want to choose, like photography is so much about like choosing one perfect image. Like, you know, you go and have a photo shoot and then it's like, there has to be like the one good one. And so he wanted to kind of ignore this idea. And so every book was kind of a series of events from the same situation. So it wasn't like diptychs or triptychs, but it wasn't like sequential always. Oh, here, maybe you can see it. It would be kind of like a very innocuous moment that he would follow. So he would follow like some guy, I don't know, just scratching his head, or somebody having a cigarette. And then he would like follow that situation and then like make a series of photographs. And then the way he would display them, he would then, you know, take pictures in a completely different geographical location and then like kind of juxtapose them together. And it was also kind of like this beautiful innocuous moment, like a sunset. You know, the sunset could be somewhere in like Omaha, and this person could be like walking the streets of New York scratching his head. And so it was this idea of like how simple you know, simple like moments that are not really like worthy of photographing, but how it's also interesting to like put them together, like two different locations. And so I was kind of thinking, like, what if we did something kind of like that, but like you with a moving picture and me with photography, and maybe like even we could find or come up with a list of locations and we would go there at the same time. So let's say like, you know, you would be in like Jackson Heights and I would be in the Bronx on Fordham Road or something, but at the same time, and then like photograph, or maybe like we could come up with like a set of rules or something, just as like as a fun exercise. Or so my one idea was that having that restriction of like time, like maybe we could do it like very really early morning, or really like, you know, like the golden hour or something like that, and see what these two different locations would look like. Or then my third idea was to do it together. So like we would choose like one location and go there at the same time, go there together. Or we can try both also, you know, could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or any like yes or no, or it sounds stupid, or, you know?
I want to say yes to everything, because everything you said was so appealing to me, just in different ways. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to jump off. You know, your first idea of, you know, bodegas are just a great intersection, and so there can be so much to play with in a bodega, and more so, you know, your idea of sort of, you know, limiting the scope in some way, and one of the ways could be, you know, geographically, you know, picking one space. And I'm of the complete same philosophy, which is, you know, the smaller you make it, the bigger it becomes. And so, yeah, rather than trying to do a survey or something really kind of panoramic, I think you could get something very interesting that's almost, the smaller that you go. So, that idea appeals to me on those grounds. And then, the photographer you shared, your mentor, even that, I mean, had a sense of, emotion. Of course, a film is a series of photographs at the end of the day, just played back very rapidly. So even that kind of format, that layout, captures some sense of the moving image, which was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the juxtaposition is another element that trades in filmmaking, which is what you do in the editing when you're going to juxtapose a shot next to another one. That's sort of the bread and butter of how we make meaning in films. And then your last sort of idea about a kind of setting a set of rules, I think is so cool. And it reminds me of like I don't know if you were aware of it. It was kind of like a small movement, kind of a small cinematic movement in the early 90s, like the Dogma films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lars von Trier and yeah.
Well, I mean, even just taking on the face of just the sort of the rules that they gave themselves, I always thought that was so such a fertile way to work. Just
Yeah.
You asked the question, and I could see it being really cool both ways. If we are visiting, a physical space, I almost wonder which one would be more interesting, to be there together, to be there at separate times.
Mm-hmm.
I almost think separate times.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of seems to evoke something about this period of time that we're in, where
Mm-hmm. You can't really. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, I can't really also picture how. Yeah, it would be maybe odd to be like, okay, like now you take pictures and I'm gonna film something, and I think it would be kind of interesting to see how we interpret the space differently, or I think I also I really like that, and I think it does reflect so much of the times now too.
Can I say really quickly, because, and I'm sorry, because you were sharing your screen and I saw one of your other internet tabs was for the Bronx Zoo. Just thinking about the Bronx Zoo, there's been a couple kind of like viral internet clips. I don't know if there's been some zoos somewhere, I don't know where they are, but they've been like releasing certain animals to walk around the zoo and look at the other animals. Because
Wow.
there's no customers and the zoos have been shut down.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so, to me, it was so beautiful. There's, these like penguins who were seeing these other animals for the first time. And
Wow.
the animals were looking at each other through the glass. And
Wow.
it was very, very beautiful, because, the humans, obviously they were holding the cameras, but the humans weren't part of this equation at all.
I was just trying to think of places that were super congested, but now I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool to try to think of. Yeah, even like, I don't know, even like the library. I was thinking like they open their doors, but it's like how, people can't really go in, and like you can check out a book, but you can't like sit there or read there. Like how that space has changed too, like the function of that space. But yeah, like the zoo, I haven't seen those memes or like.
If you give me a second, it's making me remember a scene from one of my favorite films. So this is this will be a little bit strange, but if you're familiar, there's a French filmmaker who was active kind of between the sort of the mid-century, 60s, 70s, into the 80s, Robert Bresson.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his, sort of his better known films, Oh Hasard, Balthazar, more or less
the donkey.
Yeah, so it starts actually with a sort of a family on a farm who owns this donkey, and the story basically, the main character is the donkey, and you follow this donkey as he's passed from owner to owner, and in ways sort of you experience all the different kinds of humans.
Mm-hmm.
Very generous owners and loving and caring owners, and he has indifference, comes in contact with indifference. The perspective of the film just being honed around sort of what the donkey is experiencing gives you this really kind of amazing perspective. And, the donkey is this, this vessel that we're experiencing all these things, and he's non-judgmental. He just kind of watches everything. And that's such a a fertile point of view, because it invites us to kind of not to judge in a way and to experience this range of human folly, pride. And when I saw the viral video of like the penguins in the zoo, it was so perfect because it reminded me of one of my kind of favorite movie scenes of all time, which I'll try to screen share and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Oh, I really want to watch it now. Yeah. Why do you like this scene? Like, why is this scene some?
it is, it's sort of, this is so hard to explain without kind of having the film right in front of us, but you're kind of taken out of the human story and you're giving this kind of this somehow more removed, perspective, which in a way sort of minimizes the human story in a way that we as humans are not used to. And in fact, so what cinema is so good at in a way is expanding the human story and making it really important and more dramatic and more meaningful. And what he does is the opposite, is, the humans start to seem like what they're doing is so inconsequential. To just kind of to be able to achieve that just in an artistic sense, it makes use of what films do really well, which is, as we were kind of talking about before, just a very simple juxtaposition. So then there's this aesthetic sort of kind of brilliance of what film can do, and to unite things that and to create then this third thing that emerges out of the juxtaposition.
I mean, it's interesting because the only reason why I know about this film was also from like an old photo professor who kind of spoke in kind of in a similar way that you're speaking about it. So it's interesting. I mean, maybe this is jumping like kind of ahead, but are you like how like maybe for us it's kind of easy, but like what will the final form will look like, or like I can start working on something just like in terms of putting together like the rules. Maybe we'll do like rules, obstructions, and then another list of locations, and kind of also what's doable, because then we'll just really only have like maybe 2 weeks to do it. And so so we're not like coming up with some like big epic project, like it will be, yeah.
I think that could be a really good way into it. And yeah, I mean, I think that it was very generous of you to kind of take the lead on kind of coming up with the rules. I would love to see what you have in mind. And yeah, if you want to go, I mean, if you're itching to get out there, I'm gone until Wednesday, but
Yeah.
we're maybe visiting the same space at different times, then could be
Yeah.
It'd be a great place to start.
Yeah, I think those two would be kind of good to by the end of next week to figure out, or something like that. Like, yeah, the location and the location and the list of rules. Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. Should we leave it there?
Yeah, sounds good.